Stop it. So why am I on YouTube? Okay. 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 So we'll take it off soon. Okay. That's what I meant. Okay. My apologies, guys. Alrighty. Ready for the roll call? Committee Chair Wade Wooten.
Present.
Board Member John Milazzo. Board Member Hunter Thomas. Board Member Edgar Chase. The roll has been called and a quorum is present.
Okay, so looking at the agenda, don't have anything left to address for old business. New business is the review of the December dashboards. And I assume Byron will discuss that.
Yes. So good afternoon, committee members and public. I will begin with the market update and then move into the financial status report as of December year to date. All right, as it relates to the market, inflation continues to dominate the market headlines. It's slow for the 6th straight month. So it's at 6.5 as of the last reading, which is December. That is down from 7.1 from the November reading, and that's the lowest it's been since October of 2021. So definitely a move in the right direction. Core CPI, which kind of excludes, it takes out the energy and food prices, increased 5.7 in December, and that's lower as well. It was 6% in November. So overall, inflation seems to have peaked from that 9.1 we've seen in June, the last year in June, but it still remains above the Fed funds 2% target. Unemployment, that rate has declined slightly month over month. It's at 3.5 as of the last reading in December, 3.6 in the prior month. We saw payroll growth slow up in December, but it still was better than expected, which is a sign that the labor market remains fairly strong. The Feds are expected to meet this week, and it's likely they'll issue their 8th straight rate hike from their meetings. But with the most recent data that we're seeing, especially with the inflation numbers and the unemployment rate, it's likely that that increase won't be as big as it has been. They've been running 75 basis point increases, so it's the expectation that it'll be 25 basis points. So we'll see what they're meeting this week. And then bond yields month over month were lower. The 10-year Treasury it fell roughly from 3.8 to 3.45 this year alone. So it's been kind of trending down. So those what the Fed's doing with the trying to tame inflation is leaking into the system. So you're seeing rates come down. And mortgage rates, which generally trend or they follow the 10-year Treasury, we've seen that come down as well. So it's at the lowest it's been since September of last year. So all moves in the right direction. Hopefully we can continue to see these moves trend down. That'll kind of open the market back up for us as well on our single family TPA side of the house. And then locally, looking at the unemployment rate, Orleans Parish, the rate is 4% as of the last reading, which was in November, which is slightly low from the prior month of 4.1. But it is the 5th consecutive decline in the employment rate here in Orleans Parish. And this just shows the muni yield, which kind of shows across the board how the rates have decreased, and it's just month over month. All right, I'll move into the financial status report. So not much activity in December. We're still, these are preliminary numbers. We're still working on closing the books, but they should be fairly close. And this is essentially the forecast that we've seen over the past couple of months. We just about nailed the forecast on the revenues and expenses. So these numbers you've seen, but the actual came in at 232,000 on the revenue side to a budget of 803. Then on the expense side, we landed at 1.7 versus a budget of 2.3. So that favorability, as we've talked over the past few months, is roughly 552,000. All right, next page. This shows our 13-month trending, pretty much in line on average on the revenue side, increase on the expense side, which is seasonal. We typically see increases in December as we pay out our end of year invoices. Next page. Not much here on the balance sheet. The composition remains the same, except for the movement in cash is primarily the driver and the difference here. Next page. We have our Pathways from Home Ownership Fund. No activity here. Essentially we have our maintenance costs and our insurance costs, but year to date our revenues of 2,500 roughly, and then on the expense side, 49,000. Then moving to our cash equivalents, we're at 8.2, which is down roughly 99,000 from the prior month, 8.3. One thing to note on the, we do have on the multifamily side, going back up on that line, we do have a good amount of projects in the pipeline. We have 3 that we'll see today, and then there's like 8 roughly applications behind that, potential applications actually. So we're pretty much off to a good start getting into the year. So we'll see that multifamily line tick up as we move throughout the year. And then we also received, we had a commitment on grant dollars from the Heron Foundation that actually came in January. So you'll see that on the next report for next month, but that grant dollar funding actually came in. Any questions?
Does that grant have that many compliance requirements?
Strictly for operation.
So is that the last item on the new business?
That's it.
Questions, comments? I guess have any public comments?
I have not received any of the, so I'm not sure you looking at it.
No, most of the time, see the home. I did want to touch on the Inflation Reduction Act. So we last reported about the Inflation Reduction Act in one of the final board meetings, 2022. And essentially what is happening through that Inflation Reduction Act is that there's a series of funding available for sustainability projects, climate-based projects, like the ones that we've been developing here at Finance for Walls. And there's also new tax credit provisions, there's adjustments to all sorts of public benefits or public finance benefits that are meant to accelerate the adoption of sustainable infrastructure, climate technology, green projects. There's a long list of descriptions that we can use to describe the types of projects. But the bottom line is it's directly correlated with our new strategic vision. And as you know, we became members of the American Green Bank Consortium a couple of years ago. And in that process, we've been working with other green banks around the country. We're only about 25 right now. The list is growing by the day because the Green Bank Consortium through the Coalition for Green Capital is advocating for the creation of a national green bank. And the National Green Bank would accept funding or there's funding through the EPA that is earmarked, $20 billion that is earmarked for a national conduit to distribute that funding to green banks, community development, financial institutions, credit unions, and other types of financial entities that have a mission of not only addressing climate, but also investing in distressed communities to reverse the negative effects of many communities not being invested in the first place. So the financial institutions that are within that category are all vying for this pot of $20 billion. And what we suspect is that there may be a handful of conduits that are identified by the EPA. The EPA is expected to release an application for an announcement on February 15th about the procedures for how it's going to go about selecting this entity. But right now, what we know is that there's an entity representing green banks or green finance authorities. They're typically government-based entities, some are nonprofits that are spun off by government entities. Then there's credit unions and community development financial institutions. So there are multiple groups that are trying to get access to this fund. We are specifically going through the Green Bank, National Green Bank. We believe that the National Green Bank has been a little bit ahead of the curve because we've been pushing this legislation for a number of years, and we have just a lot more track record and history as a group in terms of delivering green projects. So we're all working right now on building these projects. Some of those agencies are new and haven't started operations yet. But we're hoping that's our unique value proposition. So if we're successful, then all 20 billion will flow to the National Green Bank. If there are other groups that the money is going to be split between, maybe they'll be split equally or some kind of formula. But we're keeping a close eye. Byron and I had a chance to meet the leaders of the Coalition for Green Capital last week to talk about our piece of the puzzle. So there's some work that we have to do in the background to get our application ready, but also just a heads up, the Green Bank, the Coalition, soon the National Green Bank, is preparing to do an announcement about financing one being a part of that consortium. So every few weeks they let new announcements about the different green banks around the country, highlight their participation. So it's going to be our turn this week. We should get a draft of that press release today, and I believe they're going to try to send it over tomorrow. So that should be some positive press for us. Again, no guarantees. How the money is there with the EPA. EPA is trying to figure it out, how they want to distribute it, who they want to use to distribute capital. We feel good about the group that we're in, and we think there's a good likelihood that group will be selected. So that's a good next step. But then the step after that is making sure that we're qualified enough to even access that funding in the first place. There's going to be some requirements, there's going to be some benchmarks that have to be met, even once the National Green Bank is created and funded. So we'll keep you posted, but we just want to let you know the conversation is advancing. We're going to have Eli Hobson, the CEO of the Coalition for Green Capital, join the board meeting today. Just give a few minutes about the work they're doing and how they're trying to help cities like New Orleans get this capital so that we can hurry up and put it to them. At the end of the day, it's about putting capital. So there's many procedures that have to be executed. We want to give the board some color and insight on where we are. And the next big day is February 15th. And that's when we expect an announcement from the EPA. Also, the expectation is that the EPA will start distributing money at the earliest, third quarter, September of this year, September, October, and at the latest, early in 2020. But that doesn't mean we won't have an announcement or at least a commitment before them. It just means it's going to actually dollars from starting. Any questions? Okay, so we'll have more at the board meeting. That's it for me.
So this is adults. You on the urban committee and one committees, more committees.
It'll be this committee. This is gonna be a financial commitment. Byron talked a little bit about. They asked us not to say too much because we're still trying to figure it out in the back. So we don't know a lot of the details right now, but what we do know, it's gonna be a financial instrument.
Yeah, and just to add that there's gonna be a heavy compliance and accounting component to this. And so our early discussions were, and it changes day to day. So I'm sure he's gonna say that, but it's changing day to day. But early discussions was that they would support the accounting function for us, or place someone with the Green Bank to kind of help with that. Now it may be that they just provide the financial incentive to hire someone. So, but it's changing day to day, but it is going to be heavy accounting. It's probably going to require a separate accounting. So he was there. So, but yeah, so yeah, it's going to be as they work out everything out, we definitely keep the committee updated.
But also, Wade, I do think that parts of this that may focus program,
Yeah, that's what I was going to tell.
there's a legal component to it as well. So, as we get more information about what we need to do with it, we'll probably have to divide time.
I suspect they'll come out with a set of procedures that you have to follow.
Yeah.
And then they'll audit you to make sure you're following these procedures. Count part of it sort of be paramount because they want to make sure it's going to follow the direction they intended. And then the counter part. So I suspect this would be something that would be a lot of labor involved.
Unfortunately, you have to do some of that labor before the money gets to us. So that goes back to what we talked about when we were approving the budget, just being mindful about what expenses we need to beef up on. And we're still going after brain dollars and trying to get other funding in the door. And see this work.
Damon, are you partnering with other like organizations because they have the same needs that we have? So I mean, it makes sense that you're talking with them, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So when EPA or whoever comes out and start funding this project, that you all at least have some understanding that you're concerned with voice.
Absolutely. We have open dialogue with some of the other green banks, namely the Green Bank NIC. There's a Green Bank in Florida right next door. And we had an ongoing conversation with both about just the basics of operating the Green Bank. There are some slight differences from the Green Bank and Finance Authority. So we've been studying some of those more, some of the green banks that have been around a little longer than us. Our Green Bank operation, what they're doing. But then also there's some co-funding opportunities. Some of these green banks have already been funded by commercial banks, by some foundations. And part of their mission is to set up other green banks around the country. So there are a few of them that we are talking to and getting some guidance from, but then there are others where we're talking to them about more what you're suggesting, which is going after some.
It makes sense to work together. That more, I think, a lot of voice to work together as opposed to trying to keep.
Another thing that you'll see in the near future. Some of these green banks have programs that they're white label. I mentioned that part of their mission is to help set up other green banks. So, for example, Self, the Green Bank in Florida, they've created different software. They have program processes that they've already set up. Instead of a green bank like ours, who might have to create it from scratch, we can license their process. So it's not just sharing funding, but sharing program infrastructure too. So we do have some in our program roadmap, or just our roadmap for this year, next year. Part of the program process is we want to set up some ancillary programming to our mortgage product, for example. Unsecured mortgages with credit unions. That's a slight difference in the program that we operate on the HFA side. So there's some things that we can do to work with them closely and also do our program infrastructure. We plan just priorities that are set later this year and going next year. So great question. It varies. We're still getting details on what it's going to look like. But some of the models consist of us just paying a flat fee. And then some models are based on production. So for every loan that we do, they'll keep a piece of it. It just depends right now. But I can say that we're trying to be leaner and move more efficiently internally. So where we can outsource certain functions that we don't have to build right away, we may tend to do that more over the coming months until we're able to reinvest back and get more staff, internal staff, so we can manage some of those things in-house. While we're light in-house, we'll probably look at options that give us more capacity, more support from the third party.
Yeah, I see it as a hybrid. You know, because we're doing some in-house building right now, in-house database and some applications for the Sustainable Developer Program. As Damon mentioned, if we want to kind of get off the ground faster, this green thing, we may need to just outsource that. But overall, a lot of that data is going to have to sink back in to our centralized database. So it'll be a hybrid approach.
If there's no other comments or discussion, I think we can adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Apologize. This is my third parish today. Livingston, EBR.
Wow. Float.
Yeah.
Said the day is still young.
Yeah, no, well, still,
Shut down. Go back into-
Shut down this meeting.
So programs gonna start at 1. We have lunch in the conference room. If you want to hang out in the conference room or sit in on programs, you welcome to do that. You come back. It's your choice. But we do have food and couch.
Casey. Oh, so he was typing. Going to vote.